All right, so I've hit the recording. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to get started today. Welcome to our Educator Spotlight series. My name is Eric Calhoun, and I am a career readiness consultant, but we're going to go ahead and jump in. Today's guest is Tony Warren. I'm really excited to have Tony. Got a chance to hear him speak at a session in Detroit, which is where I'm from. Tony is an education consultant and counseling consultant and career development specialist at in, oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. In which county, Tony?
The Calhoun Intermediate School District. And yep.
Thank you. And I got a chance to hear him speak. I think you even came out, you or one of your colleagues came out to Kent County a couple of years back and talked, and we were just really impressed by what you had to say when it came to career readiness. And obviously I work with teachers and counselors, but sometimes I think counselors need to hear the career readiness component from counselors. And so we're really excited to have you come in and speak. So let me just go over a couple of the goals and norms real quick, and then we'll jump right in. The goal for today's session is to help educators to share best practices for integrating career readiness into instruction in meaningful and practical ways. And so Nicole, thank you for sharing that you're finding value with this, because the goal is to take what you're learning, whether you're a counselor, whether you're a classroom teacher, whether you're an administrator or a support person, how we can help build career readiness into instruction. Too often that becomes an extra thing or somebody else's job, but regardless of your role, the goal is to make career readiness real and meaningful. And it's also then to how do we find ways to apply that and take that out to the real world. Again, my name is Eric Calhoun. I'm the career readiness consultant, or one of the career readiness consultants here in Calhoun ISD. I do want to let you know that the session today is being recorded. In order for you to get your sketches for the session today, you need to make sure that you stay to the end, because I'm going to ask you to complete a survey, and there will be a 6-digit code. And I'll provide that 6-digit code and the survey link to you at the end, but you need to do that. And obviously, if you're joining us on demand, you can follow along and we'll provide the same information for you at the end as well, so you don't have to watch this live. Of course, it's better live because then we get a chance to hear from you and see from you. So moving on to our session norms, just a couple things to note. And for the people attending right now, I know that these are hopefully ingrained in your head because you've been to enough sessions, but mute your mic when you're listening, but definitely, especially in our smaller sessions, please feel free to share your voice when it's time, or use the chat feature. If you feel more comfortable doing that, you can do that at any time. If you do have questions and they pop up earlier on in the middle of a presentation, then I would highly encourage you to throw that in the chat. Don't wait, we will address it as soon as we can. And then save the verbal questions for the Q&A time. But please be an active participant, contribute to the discussion. Raise your hand, use the chat, whatever, but ask lots of questions. This is your chance to hear from an expert and to pick his or her brain, in this case, Tony's brain, and get some of those questions answered. So to use that time well. Please keep your screen on whenever possible. It does help our guests to put a face to those participating and help increases engagement. And then finally, for the future, whenever you can, log in with whatever first and last name you've registered under for attendance and sketch tracking. It just helps us to match up the right names to the right people so that we can make sure you get the credit. There are times where I get a name and I have no idea who it is, and then I'm trying to do a little bit of digging because I want to make sure I get you your sketch credit. Once again, I want to introduce Tony. Tony, welcome.
Oh, I'm delighted to be with you guys today, and thank you for the invite, Eric.
Absolutely.
As Eric mentioned, my name is Tony Warren. I'm an education consultant for the Calhoun Intermediate School District. I provide equity focus, professional learning resources and support for 18 school districts, and I'm delighted to be with you today. Although we have a small group, sometimes I'm on sessions with 75 and 80, and sometimes I'm on sessions with 5 or 6. So this allows for us to engage in some dialogue. And if you have some questions as I go through my short slide deck, I like a little bit of engagement. So a portion of my presentation is targeted specifically for school counselors, and then a portion will be targeted for career development and practitioners in general. So I think that will meet the audience that is here today.
Awesome. And I did put your email address up there if I need to later. If you're like, oh, I really got some burning questions, I hope it's okay. We can always bring that back in and throw that in at the end of the chat to follow up with you, Tony. I guess, hey, why don't you just in 30 seconds or less, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do and how you got to where you're at, and then you can take it away with your presentation.
So, I've been a counselor or in the area of career and college readiness and career development all my life. So I'm currently been in this role as an education consultant for 15 years. And how did I get to this position? Is that I would like to say that I was a highly functioning school counselor at a K-12 comprehensive high school in Battle Creek, Michigan. And from there, then I transferred over here to the Calhoun Intermediate School District. And I've been in this role for 15 years. So that's how I became an education consultant. I first started off as a high school counselor, student support specialist in the middle school, career development specialist, and then became an education consultant at the Calhoun Intermediate School District. I must say that we're the only school in the state of Michigan, the only career and technical education school in the state of Michigan that has been RAMP certified twice. That is the recognized model school program from ASCA. And we are also the only school consortium that has 2 RAMP certified schools. So not only is the Calhoun Area Career Center has been RAMP certified since 2013 and 2021. I helped Lakeview High School get RAMP certified as well. So in our consortium, we've had 2 state school counselors of the year and 1 national school counselor of the year. So I'm currently participating in advanced CTE for closing racial equity gaps and for career and technical education. And I was just in New Orleans for 2 days. So I'm excited about this 2-year data journey that I have with advanced CTE as we try to live out their mission of CTE without limits and school counseling without limits as well. And I'm the former president of the Michigan School Counselor Association.
So you've been pretty busy. All right. Well, fantastic. So I know that we talked about this ahead of time and you had a presentation you were going to show us. I can't remember, and I wrote down the theme. I believe the theme was unifying your district collaboration to support student career development. Why don't you take it away and share that? And if you have questions, audience members, feel free to put it in the chat as they come up. And then towards the end, we'll definitely have some time for some Q&A.
That you can see my screen right now, just a thumbs up will help. Great, Eric, appreciate that. So as you can on the screen, we're going to talk a little bit about what is the difference in a guidance counselor's role and a school counselor's role. So we'll stay here for at least 5 minutes. And if you have any questions, please add them in the chat, or you can unmute yourself, because oftentimes the role of a guidance counselor and a school counselor is used synonymously or interchangeable, and they're not. So let's talk a little bit about the differences of a guidance counselor and a school counselor. First, as you can see, that a guidance counselor has a fixed mindset. That's that one-time education. That's the job you applied for. That's the job that was on the job description and you get hired for it. And oftentimes the terms of that job was counseling, consultation, coordination, planning, advocacy, technology, data, and guidance. And they will call that a guidance counselor. So what's the difference? So the difference between the two would be a guidance counselor is reactive. A school counselor is proactive and preventative in nature. Guidance counselors serve some schools, some students, where a school counselor will serve all students. Guidance counselors focus mostly on the mental health of our kids, where a school counselor will focus on 3 domains: the academic, career, college, social-emotional, to impact student achievement. That is the key. Counselors utilize a clinical model to focus on students' deficits, where a school counselor will use an educational model that focuses on student strengths. The role of a counselor is loosely defined. Now, the role of a school counselor is clearly defined. It's so much clearly defined that ASCA has defined the role of a school counselor, and that's in part why they put together the ASCA National Model and the Recognized School Counseling Program. Counselors often work in silos. They work in isolation, where school counselors, they collaborate with business and industry partners, they collaborate with teachers, they collaborate with community leaders, they facilitate advisory council meetings. They don't work in silos. Counselors often are looked upon as gatekeepers. They are maintaining the status quo, where school counselors, they're not gatekeepers. They look at society be advancing, where others may be advancing and striving, and may also be systematically disadvantaging others. So school counselors are constantly analyzing data to find out how BIPOC populations are actually progressing through the structures and the systems that are in place. As a guidance counselor, some might not like what I'm about to say, but there is little accountability. They may actually be getting evaluated on the teacher's model. They're not using a school counseling framework or the Michigan School Counselor Association evaluation tool or ASCA's evaluation tool in which to be evaluated. So they may be using an evaluation that's incongruent with their current responsibilities. And oftentimes guidance counselors, they do very well with working with students that are on track and are college bound. They don't do so well with working with all students and encouraging them to seek certificates of completion regarding career and technical education and enrolling in CTE, in part because the majority of the counselors that I work with and that I know over the course of my 30-year career, many of them, if not 95% of them, went through the traditional track to get their master's degree. So there's a lot more learning, teaching and learning that needs to take place in terms to keep counselors up to speed of the role that career and technical education can play in their field. If you look to the right side of this chart, you'll see a whole different set of terms. The difference between a guidance counselor and a school counselor. You see change. Counselors are about systemic change. They want to look and evaluate the current systems and structures and find out how all students are progressing. Competence. They are seeking cultural knowledge, cultural awareness, and cultural sensitivity so that they can more effectively work cross-culturally and produce better outcomes for all students. They are aware of SEL competencies from CASEL. They've already adopted or aware of equity initiatives that are taking place in their district, and they have an equity definition to stand on. So for me, equity is achieved when we eliminate the predictability of student outcomes based on race, gender, language spoken at home. They're social justice advocates. They're not just advocates. And when I talk about being a social justice advocate, we're talking about making sure that you can advocate for your students to have political justice, cultural justice, and economic justice. Technology literate. They're able to infuse multiple technology tools and resources to better equip them with outreach, especially in this virtual world that we're in right now. So they are able to use a multitude of tools from Edmodo to Zello to Jamboard to others. They can reach and connect with their students using technology. And then they're data literate. To borrow from a phrase from Victoria Bernhardt, she talks about using multiple measures of data. And multiple measures of data would be demographic data, achievement data, attendance data, to get an outcome of how students are progressing. And then they look at themselves as leaders. Oftentimes, guidance counselors will default to the administrator. The administrator has to tell them to direct them to do their jobs or direct them to do some new initiative. As a school counselor, they believe that you can lead from the middle of the pack and you don't need a title to be a leader. So they're going to lead their program. So there's a big difference between guidance counselors and school counselors. And if you read any literature that is coming out in newspapers recently, you would always see disparaging remarks made about guidance counselors, because that is old language that is used. It permeates the landscape of school counselors. And we want to make sure that we advise our administrators and other educational groups of the name change that ASCA advocated for in 1990 when they issued an official statement to move from the term guidance counselor to school counselor. Lastly, what I'll say about the difference between a guidance counselor and a school counselor is a school counselor has a growth mindset. So you see IQ, EQ, and AQ. IQ is our intelligence quotient. That's on the guidance counselor side as well. And then there's that emotional intelligence. And then that AQ is our ability to adapt, change. You can't be in your position for 10, 15, 20 years and rely on the knowledge you had 10 and 15 years ago. We have to ramp up our skill set, and school counselors are continual learners. So they're able to adapt. You know, when we had to move to virtual learning, school counselors who had that skill set, they were able to adapt their lessons to a virtual format. Hopefully, what I've just covered will give the audience today and those who may listen to this at a later date a better understanding of the difference between a guidance counselor and a school counselor. I would actually like to transition to more of a career focus, district focus approach to 5 recommendations on how you can improve your district's career development. So the first 3, well, let's just cover the first one. It says, enlist the employer community as a lead partner in identifying in-demand careers. So one of the things that districts, and we're doing this as well, we're identifying employer partners who could team with us to ramp up our dual enrollment, to ramp up opportunities for apprenticeships, and to come in and be guest speakers, and to participate in advisory councils with our teachers to inform our teachers and our students what are the real world application skills that students need to transition into employment. So the first would be enlist employer community as a lead partner in identifying in-demand careers. Second would be make career preparation matter to schools and students by prioritizing career development in the accountability system. We know what gets measured gets done. And we know we have the Michigan Career Development Model, and we have requirements for completing educational development plans. But we have to take that one step further. We have to create a system in our districts that allows for measure far beyond just the ACT or the SAT score. And I'll show you a graph of what that looks like later on in the presentation. So we want to make sure that career development is on a level playing field with academics, and that they're not 2 separate entities. Because the most important thing is everyone is going to become gainfully employed. So we want to make sure that kids are going to pursue either employment, entrepreneurship, enrollment, or enlistment. So we want them to become gainfully employed, not just go to college for 8 years and can't maintain or secure a job at a sustainable wage for their families. The third would be provide career development resources and technology tools. Just think about what's in your districts right now. Resources and technology tools. Nicole, you mentioned that, you know, I am a team of one, but you as a team of one, you need access to resources and tools. So you need some things. So are you using Nepris, Zello, Naviance, UScience, Career Smart Schools, Panorama? These are just a few of the multiple tools that you may need, including access to assessments and interest inventories and training and a budget to ramp up your skills as well. So we need to make sure that the practitioners that we're hiring, not only do we need to give them a budget to carry out their responsibilities, but we need to provide them with professional learning opportunities and equip them with career development resources and technology tools so they can use them at a high level. Make sure that we allocate funding for K-12 career development. Now, we know in the world that I'm in, Perkins is a huge advantage and a funder for many career development activities, lessons, and events that we have, and that would be a federal grant that we have available to all of our students in the state of Michigan. So you want to make sure, and if you're not aware of what Perkins can provide for you, you want to make sure that you meet with your career and technical education coordinator in your area and find out how the Perkins funding is being used or allocated and who's receiving those funds. Find out what state funding is available to support your career development initiatives and what local grants and opportunities are available through business and industry partnerships. And 5 is ramp up career development programs and equip students with the requisite skills needed to succeed in careers of interest. And this one, they're all very important. And I look at these 5 and I make them applicable to my work every day. And I'll show you an example of how we've ramped up our career development program to equip students with the requisite skills needed to succeed in careers of interest. And when we say requisite skills, we're talking high skill, high wage, high demand careers. So what are those requisite skills and how have we ramped up our program? A comprehensive overview when we talk about unifying our district, collaborating to support career development, and K-12 career development framework, we call it learn, earn, live. The learn is the academic component. Earn is the career development component, and the live is the socio-emotional component. So under equipping students to be prepared for H3 careers, all of the things that link are lessons, grant opportunities, professional learning that we at our consortium around component number 5. I'm able to collect data and do a final report at the end of the year to my boss. So when I speak with my boss, Tim Staffen, he's the assistant. And he says, Tony, what are we doing to ramp up career development for our consortium schools? So I can show him this chart and then provide him some data on what we've done throughout the entire year to ramp up career development in our consortium. I've said a lot thus far, so I'm about halfway in, and I want to pause just for a second, just for reflections and questions, because this portion right here, ramping up career development, this is a live resource that we're providing. This is not theory. We actually do these things.
Tony, can you talk a little bit about the CCR readiness grant where it says 5,000 per district?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up, Nicole, because remember, I think it was number 4 under the 5 recommendations to unify your district, it was funding. So in order to do 5, we need funding. So we get the funding from where? From Perkins. So what we do is provide all of our districts $5,000 to implement some form of career development initiative in their building. So XYZ school would get $5,000. Now, what we require them to do, and this may be an old one, so I'm actually going to take a look at and see if this opens up, but I have the actual revised document. So this right here is just the grant application, but what we have them do is, and I'll share this with you as well, what we have them do is complete what we call a career development action plan. And what's great about this career development action plan, it aligns with ASCA's K-12 mindsets and behavior standards, their career and college readiness standards. So each district has to complete that, identify what competencies and indicators that they're going to hit by implementing this career development initiative in their school. They also have to identify the partners that are going to help them facilitate this career development initiative. And they're going to have to identify the number of students that it impacts. So what does that do for us? So now I have 17 plans from all of our districts, and I can put together one outcome report and give it to our superintendent.
Tony, question. So with that 5,000 that Nicole was bringing up, is that something that you have set aside in your budget from the Calhoun ISD specifically for this, that you set aside and earmark that for these every year?
Per year. So actually, I would like to see if I could pull up the college readiness. You saw the application, but I would like to see if I can pull up quickly, as you guys are maybe have a few more questions. The Career and College Readiness Grant is important because that identifies everything that the district is going to do with the $5,000. They just don't get the money. They have to do an action plan. Any other questions? Is that something you're thinking about maybe that you guys may be wanting to do in your consortium?
It definitely sounds good. I mean, I think the question would be, at least from a Kent standpoint, is where do we earmark those dollars? If those dollars are already assigned elsewhere, where would we pull them from in order to set something aside for this? I definitely like that idea, but where would we grab those dollars from in order to be able to set up a program like this?
Oh, this is an older version. You can see it was last edited in November 2020. So what will happen is each of our districts will get an updated version of this. And as you can see, it's just an overview of what this action plan is. And on the left side is the mindsets and behaviors from ASCA. And the highlighted section are all of the Zello completion standards, because we're a Zello district. So those are all the Zello lessons and Zello completion standards. And each district would then have to go in and figure out what are they doing with 5,000, and then match it up with the mindsets and behaviors that your lessons or activities are going to hit. Does that make sense? And then identify any additional curriculum resources that they've used, the location, and the number of students that is impacted. I get 16 of these, and then I make one final report.
And each district can have a different plan. Each plan, they're individualized plans per district.
What's great about it is that some districts may take a college tour, and some districts may bring in guest speakers. Some districts may use a specialized curriculum to help with career development and SEL. But whatever they do, and there's a lot of creative thought that goes into what each district is going to do, is based on the district's needs. It's not that we're telling the district what they should do. We're just asking for the data after the effect of the lesson, the activity, or the event that they initiate.
Any additional questions, whether in the chat or just opening up questions, Nicole or Joyce, or if you just have any additional questions, now would be a great time to ask.
Maybe contemplating some questions. Eric, when you see here, it says Career and Future Readiness Series. My Career and Future Readiness Series would be similar to what we're doing today. What we also do is we schedule all of our professional learning to ensure that our counselors within 2 years meet all of the requirements for Public Act 151. And it's free for counselors in our consortium. And we make sure that the professional learning is relevant and timely and meets their needs as well. And we align it with all of their 25 career readiness sketches, 20 college, and 5 military. So everything we do will be centered around that.
Gotcha. So they're able to get their sketches through some of these collaborative PDs that you're putting on.
So Future Readiness Series, that's 25, that's, I think is 20, maybe 50 sketches.
20 in college, 25 in college, 20 in career readiness, and 5 in military.
This here, they could get almost 15 from me in 1 year.
Wow.
And if they go to the county-wide counselors meetings, they can get another 15. And if they go to the Counselor Connect IDEA Professional Learning Series, which is all around inclusion, diversity, advocacy, access, they can get an additional 15 general sketches. So if they just stay home and they go here for 2 to 3 years, they'll get they'll get all of the sketches that they need.
So Tony, we're just about out of time, and man, it's like we're just starting to dive in, and we're almost out of it. So you probably had a couple more things you wanted to show. Oh, good, we're towards the end here. All right, want to make sure you have a chance to show anything else.
So here's the last thing that I will show, and I think this will be extremely interesting or beneficial for the group. And this is actually something that we are embarking on now. So remember when we talked about that students are more than just an ACT or an SAT score? Here we're in college readiness indicators. And as you can see, there are multiple career and college readiness indicators. So I'm working with 2 local districts right now, and we are identifying who are the students that have participated in 2 or more learning leadership experiences, who's participated in the project-based learning capstone project, completed AP exam with a 3 or more, has a GPA of a 2.8 on a 4.0 scale, an SAT of a 1059, completed dual enrollment. So we look at all of these things, and then the district will determine, you know what, if a student could get 2 of these career components and 2 of the academic components, we're going to say that kid is college and career readiness, is college and career ready at XYZ school. As opposed to, well, they needed a 1059. If you don't get that, you're not considered college or career ready. So we just expanded our definition of what a career and college readiness student is. That's more inclusive.
I like that. And I like that. What I heard you say is they don't have to hit them all. They have to hit a couple of them. So you give them multiple options. And if you hit any combination of these, then you're college and career ready. Great.
Is look at this document, Eric, and we'll wrap up with this.
Sure.
Look at this document and add their student names and data, and then go through and see how many of the indicators that did Tony Warren hit. And is he considered career and college ready according to our career and college readiness team? So a large portion of my work right now is centered on working with districts on this. And this is important in part because this is where administrators want to have conversations about.
Got it. Hey, Tony, are you able or willing to share with me any of these are these documents that you share out publicly, or are they private?
Oh, I will share these documents with you. They're working documents in which I work on with everyone in our consortium, well, the districts in our consortium, because I just think it's good work. It's what districts should be moving towards. The profile of a career and college readiness life learner.
Gotcha. To clarify, I mean, share with me so that I can post them for anybody who's watching this live or on demand. We can post these for them to see if they were like, oh, I love this. I want to start. I need something, a baseline to start from. So are you willing to share? Is that something you're open? Fantastic. All right. Wow. So a little overwhelming, but in a good way. There's a lot to do. I'm going to have one final question, and I have a couple of quick slides to share. My question to you would be, we have people who are new to their role, and this is a lot of stuff, right? Which is a good thing, but this is something you've built up over several years. For the person who's really just starting to try to build some college and career readiness components within their local district or consortium, if they're at ISDs, where would you start? What would you say, like, start with this one thing to get yourself started for the person who's done nothing to get started with something? Where would you start first?
With a flashlight approach. Find something in the district that you want to highlight and address. That way you're not doing random acts of career development. Find something you want to address, and then find someone who is knowledgeable in that area that can help you address that. And then start your professional learning journey with joining organizations and ramp up your skill set in that area. So that's what I'm done. That's what I've done over the course of my career and continue to do.
Sure. If you would, I need to share my screen, but as we're doing that, as we're transitioning, if there are any final questions from our audience, please put them in the chat. We can address them here as we're getting wrapped up, but I want to make sure I address these last couple of items here. For your sake, let's go back to my presentation. So I'm going to share that. And I really appreciate it. This could have been an hour-long session, but unfortunately, I commit to about 35 to 40 minutes. I wanted to mention there's a couple more sessions coming up. Our next educator spotlight, just like today, is January 31st with Ryan Zeiderveen. He is a business teacher in Kellogg'sville here in Kent County, and he will talk about how to take your business class and make it real world by having the kids develop their own real businesses and learning through that. February 21st, I have Jody Snyder. I heard you talk about, or saw listed there a capstone course. She talks about in Godfrey Lee that they do a capstone course as part of their senior project in Godfrey Lee. We don't have any educators in industry scheduled. We're trying to specifically keep that open, but we do have a couple of other programs on January 13th. We have our next session of our Career Readiness Network. That is from 8 to 11 in the morning. So it's 3 hours. And yes, you can get SCECHs for that, but that will be January 13th. And we have our third one of that scheduled on March 23rd. In between, this is tentative. We had March 8th for a face-to-face of career readiness session. I think that's on hold right now. So the next ones you want to look for is the career readiness network sessions on January 13th and March 23rd. I did see a couple of chat things, so I'll check that out real quick. If you are interested in sharing some of the things you're doing, or you know somebody who's doing some really great things, whether it be in the classroom or as a counselor who are just doing some great things around career readiness and are interested in sharing that, please consider signing up or referring somebody at bit.ly/spotlight guest. That's bit.ly/spotlight guest. Finally, in order to get SCECHs for today's session, I need you to fill out the survey. Tell me, and tell Tony, what is it that you appreciate about it? What is one thing you can say, here's something I'm going to start with. You can find that survey at bit.ly/ESS-SCECH, SCECH 2021-22. That's bit.ly/ESS-SCECH 2021-22. And the 6-digit code you need in order to complete that, 734-248. In just a second, I will put it in the chat so that you have it and you can copy and paste it. 734-248 is the 6-digit code. My name is Eric Kelleher. My email address is below, erickelleher@kenisd.org, or you can reach out to us and look at some of our resources, kenisd.org/career readiness. I want to say thank you for your time, Tony. Really appreciate your time. I see there were Joyce said, love the graphic of the guidance counselor versus school counselor. So she really enjoyed that. I'm going to make sure I put the SCECH information in the chat here in just a second. But Tony, thank you. Thank you for your time today and your expertise.
Appreciate the opportunity, and I'll send you the slide deck, and you're welcome to share it out with your colleagues.
Wonderful. Really appreciate that, because I feel like we were just starting to scratch the surface, and probably at least being able to look at some of these resources would be valuable for our educators to be able to see, whether you're here live or on demand. For those attending live, I did just put the SCECH link and the 6-digit code that you need into the SCECH. Again, thank you for your time, Tony. Really appreciate it today. Thank you for your guests. We're going to go ahead and stop the recording, and you can exit at any time once you've gotten those the needed things. But again, thanks again. Appreciate it, and have a great day.